Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a problem that I'm sure every single leader listening knows all too well. How do you know, really know that you're pointed in the right direction before you commit a ton of time, money, and energy to a project?
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. Your team is on fire, you hit every deadline, the execution is just flawless. And then, at the end of it all, you get that pit in your stomach. You realize you've just perfectly solved the wrong problem. It's a perfect tactical win and a complete strategic disaster. And wow, is it frustrating.
But this is more than just frustrating. It is a massive, massive drain on your resources, on your team's morale, on time you will never get back. Honestly, you could argue it's the single most expensive mistake a business can make. Committing your absolute best people and your budget to climbing the wrong hill, well, that's a recipe for failure. So how do we stop this from happening? Well, the answer isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter, right from the very beginning. We need a framework that's actually designed to prevent this exact mistake. And that's what we're talking about today. It's a concept called top-down validation. And it's all about checking your direction before you even think about drawing the map.
So what is it exactly? Well, think of it like a crucial diagnostic phase for your project. It's a fast, super-focused process that you run at the very beginning to pressure test your biggest assumption. Is the problem we think we're solving the real problem? Getting that right from the start, de-risks the entire thing and makes sure you're aimed at the right target from day one.
This quote it gets to the heart of the matter perfectly. You see, a map gives you all the detailed turn-by-turn directions for the whole journey. But a compass, it just tells you if you're heading north. In the early stages of a project, you don't need that detailed map. What you desperately need is that compass, just to confirm you're headed in the right general direction.
Here's probably the best way to think about it. Imagine you go to the doctor. They're not going to immediately order some super expensive MRI, right? Of course not. They do an initial checkup. They ask about your symptoms. Hey, that's like doing focus interviews. They take your vital signs. That's your financial analysis. They see how you compare to a healthy baseline. That's your external benchmarking. Top-down validation is simply that essential, common-sense first exam for your business.
Okay, so how do you actually use this compass? This isn't just some vague theory. It's a very practical toolkit with 4 concrete activities that you can use to find your own true north.
These are the 4 pieces, and here is the absolute key. This is not some 6-month-long research project. No way. This is a rapid-fire process, something you can often get done in just a couple of weeks. And it's designed to give you a powerful, multifaceted view of the landscape, fast.
First up, and this one is absolutely non-negotiable, you have to talk to people. You need to conduct structured interviews with employees, executives, maybe even some key customers. This is where you get the real story, the hidden context. This is how you truly capture the voice of the organization.
Second, you gotta dive into the numbers. A high-level financial analysis helps you spot the trends, the weird anomalies that make you go, Again, this isn't some deep forensic audit. It's about quickly establishing a hard, data-driven baseline, your financial reality check. Third, you have to look outside your own 4 walls. How do your key metrics actually stack up against your competitors, or even against best-in-class companies in totally different industries? This provides that all-important market context. You get to ask, is this problem we're facing unique to us, or is everyone dealing with it?
And finally, you learn from other people's mistakes and successes. Find case studies of other companies that have faced similar challenges. What did they try? What worked? What blew up in their faces? This gives you what I love to call vicarious experience. It lets you avoid reinventing the wheel, or even worse, repeating a well-known mistake.
Okay, that toolkit is pretty clear, right? But now for the big question, the one you're probably asking. How do you, as a leader, actually make this happen? What can you do to get this started with your team, like tomorrow?
There are 4 things you can do, and I'd call them non-negotiable. First, you have to mandate the process. Make it a required, official part of every single project kickoff. Second, always start with the interviews to get that human context. Third, present these initial findings early. It builds credibility and gets everyone on the same page. And finally, and this is the big one, you must be willing to pivot. If the evidence shows you're pointed the wrong way, Have the courage to change course. That's the whole point.
Now, as you start putting this into practice, you're almost certainly going to run into a few common traps. But just knowing what they are is half the battle. And for each trap, there's a clear antidote that, frankly, is the hallmark of really savvy leadership.
The first trap is the most dangerous one. It's organizational arrogance. It's that, oh, we already know the answer attitude. The antidote? You have to foster a culture that's genuinely curious. Make it a rule. Every core assumption gets tested, no matter how obvious it seems, no matter how much of a sure thing it feels like. Test.
The second trap. Oh, we've all seen this one. It's the dreaded data dump. Your team does all this great work, and they're tempted to show it all off in a 100-slide deck. You have to resist that urge. The antidote is to mandate a concise, insightful story. The goal isn't to prove how much work they did. The goal is to build a compelling narrative that explains what the data actually means.
And the third trap is just plain old fear. What happens if your validation proves that your boss, or maybe your most important client, has totally misdiagnosed the problem? It can be terrifying to deliver that news. The antidote here is a powerful mix of courage and diplomacy. You've got to have the guts to speak truth to power, but also the smarts to do it in a way that brings people along with you, instead of making them defensive.
So in the end, it all comes back to this one really powerful idea. This whole process isn't about getting bogged down in planning all the details too early. It's about one thing: achieving directional clarity. It's about having the wisdom to check your compass before you start marching deep into the wilderness.
So, before you take another step, before you assign another person, before you spend another dollar on that next big initiative, I want you to ask yourself and your team this one simple question. Is our compass pointed true north? Answering that honestly might just be the most valuable work you do all year.